Soccer is a British word. Let that land for a second. The same people who spent decades rolling their eyes at Americans for saying soccer, the same people who act like the word is some kind of cultural crime, they invented it. They used it proudly for decades. And then one day, they just stopped, quietly, like it never happened. Meanwhile, the Americans kept using it, and now half the world thinks America made it up. They didn't. Why though? Picture a dinner table somewhere in London, 1995. Someone passes the salt and casually says, "Did you catch the soccer match last night?" Nobody flinches, nobody corrects them, because in 1995 in Britain, soccer was still a perfectly acceptable word. Now imagine that same dinner table in 2005. Same sentence. Suddenly there's a pause, a look, an uncomfortable silence. It's called football. What changed? The sport didn't change. The ball didn't change. The rules didn't change. Just the word and the feeling around it. So how did one word go from perfectly normal to practically offensive in less than a generation? And why does it still divide people today? To understand this, we need to go back to England, 1863. A group of men in a London pub, because of course it was a pub, sat down to write the official rules of a sport that had been played chaotically across England for centuries. Different towns had different rules. Some used hands, some used feet. It was essentially organized chaos with a ball. That meeting produced the Football Association, the FA, and with it, the first official rulebook for what they called association football. Now here's where it gets interesting. Victorian England had a habit, a very specific, very posh habit, of taking long words and shortening them with an "er" on the end. Breakfast became brekker, rugby football became rugger, and association football? They took the sock from association, added "er" on the end, and got soccer. A British man, almost certainly named Charles Wreford-Brown, is widely credited as one of the first people to use it casually around 1863. Someone asked if he was going to play rugger. He said no, soccer. And just like that, a word was born. In a pub, in England, invented by the British. So if the British invented soccer, why do they hate the word now? Here's the twist. When football spread across the world in the late 1800s and early 1900s, carried by British sailors, merchants, and travelers, it took both names with it. In most of the world, football stuck. Simple, descriptive. It's a ball and you use your foot. Done. But in countries that already had a sport called football, America with American football, Australia with Australian rules football, Ireland with Gaelic football, they needed a way to distinguish between them, so they kept the other name, soccer. Not because they were wrong, not because they were lazy, but because they were being precise. Meanwhile, back in Britain, something strange was happening. As football grew into a working-class passion, a symbol of national identity, the word soccer started to feel wrong. Too casual, too foreign, too American. By the 1980s, British broadcasters were quietly dropping it. By the 1990s, it was almost gone. By the 2000s, saying soccer in Britain could genuinely get you looked at sideways. And right now, as the 2026 World Cup is happening with the US as co-host, billions of people are watching the exact same matches, feeling the exact same tension, celebrating the exact same goals. Some of them are calling it football, some of them are calling it soccer, and every single one of them is right. Because at the end of the day, whatever you call it, a last-minute goal still hits the same way. In every language, in every country, in every living room on the Senate. That's the beautiful game. That's today's episode of Why Though? Drop an emoji in the comments and tell me, what do you call it? Football or soccer? Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.